So you're listening to the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. In this episode, we'll be talking about Jack You Off. Joining me to discuss this fun track, off the album, is Zachary Hoskins once again. Hi, Zach.
Hey, I've found my niche, I think, on your show.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. We did Johnny Talk to Rush off this album already, which has really nothing to do with sex, unless we're trying to say that Prince doesn't want the world to blow up so he can continue having sex, but that's just one interpretation. This one is an interesting track. But before we get into it, before we start talking about the lyrics to Jack You Off, can you just say hi to everyone and where that people can find you and what you're up to?
Sure. I'm Zach Hoskins. I'm a writer. Right now, the only project that I'm working on that's actually kind of a lie, but the project I'm most consistently working on is a blog where, much like what Jason is doing, I'm going through song by song for Prince's full catalog, as long as I can, trying to get through the whole thing. It's the blog is called Dance Music Sex Romance. Right now I'm in the 1999 album, so not too far ahead of Jason, and I'm sure you're probably going to lap me sometime in the near future. But
not a race.
That's right. It's or at the very least it's a marathon. That's what I always tell myself. But yeah, you can check that out. It's at princesongs.org. And please do, because the more people who read it, the more fun it is to write, to be honest. So
absolutely, I totally agree with that. So welcome back, and Jack You Off is the song we're going to be talking about in this episode. It's the last song on Controversy, so this is the song that ends the entire album, and this is really the first song, if I'm thinking back to the previous three albums, the first time that Prince ends an album with just a ridiculous sex song. Because we've got, what's the last song on For You? For You ends with
I'm Yours.
I'm Yours, and then you've got It's Gonna Be Lonely. So
right.
I'm Yours is just like a really rockin' kind of a power ballad.
Mm-hmm.
And It's Gonna Be Lonely is a really melancholy breakup song.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah.
And Party Up is your kind of rebellious dance song with a political edge to it.
Right. And those are three like really, I think, gold standard closing tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're three of the best songs on those albums for sure.
Yeah.
And then you got Jack You Off.
Then there's Jack You Off. Yeah.
So this is when I think of this song, I think of the albums Dirty Mind and Controversy as a little bit of like mirror images of each other in some ways. Mm-hmm. And now when it comes to the track listing, like the placement of the tracks on the album, that isn't always the case. Like with Dirty Mind and Controversy being the lead songs off the album, being the title tracks, kind of being the mission statements for the entire record.
Right.
You've got ballads that end side A with Got a Broken Heart Again and Do Me Baby. I mean, one's super short and one's really long, so they're very different songs in that respect, but it's the same kind of tone, like ending side A on a kind of a ballady note. And then you've got other tracks that I can point at later, but with this one I feel like it's most closely resembles Head from Dirty Mind.
Yeah.
In the way that it's meant to just kind of be a little shocking. I mean, it's a shocking song. Head was supposed to be shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also supposed to be playful though and fun and not so serious. Nothing really serious about this song at all. At least that I can glean from the lyrics. And I mean, as we go through them, who knows, might come up with something that I never really considered before.
Yeah,
but
I don't think I'm going to. But
you're not really thinking so either. Huh? Okay. I just wanted to put that caveat in, just in case you uncover something and all of a sudden I have to backtrack and retract my words. But no, this song is Prince just being utterly ridiculous and shocking.
Right.
it really plays to what might be considered a lot of gender fluidity look in his look and aesthetic and his sound. Whether that was intentional or not, we can get to that. But I think just the name of the song right off the bat, Jack You Off, you know it's going to be a dirty song.
Right.
Just like Head. Oh, that's going to be a dirty song. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know exactly you're going to get into a dirty song with this one. So if you're playing this album in front of like young kids or something, like, okay, well, we're going to skip this track without even hearing it. You already know, like, maybe I shouldn't play this song in front of them. Although it may all go over their head anyway.
Yeah, which is ironic because I was just thinking, Jack You Off, I feel like with the this would go over like, not with the lyrics, but the song, the like the riff, the bounciness of it. This would be a great song for kids.
Yeah. With any other lyrics.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other lyrics, it totally would. Because it's a very upbeat, it's very bouncy, it's very kind of happy, joyful song.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to sing along to. It's catchy as hell, and it's like I said, it's a fun song. But yeah, the lyrics, okay. So yeah. Besides that, any other comments before we get into the lyrics on Jack You Off? I mean, what was? Do you have any like thoughts on the song when you first heard it, or maybe as you've been listening to it over your life? When did you first?
Right.
When did you kind of catch on to the Controversy album first and foremost?
No, that's a good, yeah. I came to Controversy a little bit later. So I think I mentioned in a previous episode, I got into Prince, you know, first through the singles. Obviously, I kind of like grew up adjacent to songs like When Doves Cry and Kiss and, you know, the Batman soundtrack. I was 5 during, you know, peak Batman, so that was I definitely remember Bat Dance and all of that. And then as I got older and started like investigating Prince's music, it was like I started with the hits compilations, and then, you know, then I checked out Purple Rain and 1999 and you know, Sign of the Times and these like the sort of like the canon of Prince albums, which Controversy is sort of in, but sort of not. It's kind of the redheaded stepchild of Prince's quote unquote classic era from you know, that like amazing run of albums he had from Dirty Mind in 1980 to conservatively we'll say Lovesexy in 88. And Controversy is the one that everybody including me a little bit is kind of like you know, its highs are so high and its lows, I wouldn't say are low. Like, it's an album that I have a lot of affection for, but it isn't this like, you know, song for song stone classic like Dirty Mind is, in my opinion. Which is interesting because I think in terms of individual songs, Controversy has some of the best. You know, the title track, Do Me Baby, even like Let's Work, you know, it has these very important songs, and it also has some weird kind of experimental or you know, just kind of goofy off the wall stuff. And Jack You Off is, I would say, one of those songs, one of the latter category. But I have a lot of affection for it. I think it's so funny. Like, even just, this is one of those songs that inexplicably the music makes me laugh. Like, something about the way that keyboard sounds, you know, the keyboard horn playing that main, like, nah, 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 nah. It's like, it's so, it makes me, it puts a smile on my face as soon as it comes on. And like you said, this is definitely an earworm. Like, I get Jack You Off stuck in my head more than hands down any other song on Controversy, and probably more than a lot of other Prince albums too. Like, something about it, if it pops into your head, it's not coming out for a while. So yeah, this would not be on the mixtape that I would give somebody who wanted to know, like, how should I get into Prince? What should I listen to first? But I I just think it's so silly and so fun. So
Yeah, this is what they call a deep cut.
right, right.
And yeah, I mean, I didn't come across this song until I was an adult either, so it's not like I had any childhood memories and wondering what Jack You Off meant.
Yeah, right.
I had to ask my mom, and she said, "Don't listen to that anymore." So I didn't have any of that to fall back on, but I'm certain there are people that can speak to that, and were maybe too young to listen to this album, and didn't know what this song was about. They just listened to the groove, like you mentioned, the earworm hooks and the music behind it. And with any other lyrics, this song could have been, a hit like Delirious or something, because Delirious is kind of like in the same vein in terms of a very catchy song in that same sense, but doesn't have a lot, Delirious doesn't have a lot to say, a lot of deep things to say, like 1999, for example, or even Little Red Corvette. It's just, hey, I just want to mess around, and here's a really fun song to do it to. And Jack You Off is the same way, but it's just you can't sing a song about jacking somebody off for the entire song and expect it to be a mainstream hit, which obviously he wasn't looking for that, or else he would have wrote different lyrics.
Right.
So yeah, so Jack You Off this was like thinking about like peak dirty Prince. Like when I think of like, oh, well, Prince was just, a filthy fucker back in the early 80s, and you cite songs like Head and Sister, and this falls into that category.
Yeah.
Sexuality is, despite the title, is not one of those songs.
Right.
But this song is, Lady Cab Driver is, and, even the end of Let's Pretend We're Married. So he's got a number of these songs from these handful of years in the early 80s that are just really raunchy, and this is absolutely one of them. And there aren't really a ton on Controversy when you think about it. There's some nods to, there's some stuff going on at the end of Do Me Baby that you just have to kind of assume are very sexualized, but this is overt, very clearly overt, and he's talking about masturbation, and not just his own masturbation. The point of the song is jacking somebody else off. Right. So, yeah, so let's get into the lyrics. Instead of just alluding to it, let's just talk about it. All right, so the first verse, if you're looking for somewhere to go, thought I'd take you to a movie show. Sit in the back, and I'll jack you off. I can't give you everything you want, but I can take you to a restaurant. If you're not hungry, I'll jack you off. If your man ain't no good, come on over to my neighborhood. We can jump in the sack, and I'll jack you off. If you're tired of the masturbator, little girl, we can go on a date. And if you like, I'll jack you off. So even just in the first verse, he's just proposing all these scenarios to a girl, because he mentions a girl. Right. He mentions right there towards the end of the verse. He proposes all these scenarios where, his services, as you might call them, would come in handy, and I'm pun intended with that one. I thought of that one ahead of time. Like, I got to use it. I don't care. Dad jokes can, whatever. I'm a dad. I can put.
Yeah, we're all dads here. It's a
corny pun intended, but So he's offering services to this girl, to this woman, for whatever reason. We have to assume that he's into her, that he's sexually into her and attracted to her, and instead of offering oral sex like in Head, he's offering manual stimulation. Okay. All right. I don't know, she might take him up on it, but he wants to do these all in a very public place. Right. Movie show, restaurant. Come on over to my neighborhood. Doesn't say come over to my house. Come over to my neighborhood. Go on a date. Oh, let's go on a date so I can jack you off. Like, what? This seems like a very private thing that, he would be offering, but nope. He wants to do it in very public locations. Any thoughts on the first verse there, Zach?
No, this kind of, this sets the tone. If you're wondering, if you haven't heard this song and you're listening to this podcast for some reason, and you're wondering if the song is going to change directions at this point, if there's going to be a clever turn, this is pretty much it from here on out. That's we've established what this song is about, and we're going to hear more scenarios in which Prince will jack you off.
Yeah, I mean, there's the twist ending. I mean, I don't want to, give it away. But there is a twist at the end.
Yeah, don't stop listening yet.
Yeah, right. But the first couple of verses, all you're going to get is just basically Prince offering to jack you off, and the you, of course. Oh wait, is this the first song where he uses shorthand, like textile?
I think
lettering?
so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I just thought about that because I know it's been mentioned before, but I just thought of that because I was saying you, and I looked at my notes, and it's the letter U, and I don't think he had done that before, because When You Were Mine off of Dirty Mind is YOU. So yeah.
And it's interesting to watch the evolution of that. If you actually like read the lyrics on his on the official for the albums that came with official lyrics, it was a gradual thing. Like it shows up, like you said, none at all on Dirty Mind. It shows up in the title of Jack You Off, but I don't think there were printed lyrics for Controversy. And then on 1999, it shows up for just the word you, in the printed lyrics, but any kind of like contraction. This is like such a nerdy detail, but I figure if somebody's listening to the podcast, they'll be interested in nerdy details. Any kind of contraction or something like that, like your or you'd or whatever. He spells out you, and then just gradually, like, this style of writing gets more and more Baroque. And then, I mean, if you look at the booklet for Rave Under the Year 2000, for example, it's nuts. Like, everything, like when he says I, there's a little picture of an eye, and, it's interesting to see, how he sort of, developed this language from just sticking it in the title of one song, to it becoming, his own dialect almost, later in his career.
Yeah, it was almost like it was used for very practical effects early on.
Right.
Just to shorthand things and maybe create something that was kind of unique. And it became less practical the longer he did it, to the point where it was harder to read.
Right.
Like, okay, it's almost too much now. I can't barely tell what he's saying anymore because it's so much. Not every single word needs a symbol or some weird spelling. It's okay.
Yeah,
right.
And you still get Prince fans on the internet who that is, they take their cues from his way of talking, which I personally am of the mind that only he could pull that off. But
yeah. Well, like a social media platform like Twitter, though, it almost forces you sometimes.
It is, it does
want to use
handy.
shorthand, but I have to get a point across in so many characters. So I guess I'll devolve to the Prince shorthand and make some attempt. Some half-assed attempt, but oh wow, yeah, this song is like all of a sudden super significant because of that.
Yeah.
All right, I couldn't really say that with a straight face, but all right. So the chorus is "I'll jack you off," and he just says that again, "I'll jack you off," and that's the chorus. So he's just and then you get the do 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 as you mentioned, and it's just fun. Really,
yeah,
it's easy to sing. Because it's just two lines, I'll jack you off, and the way he stretches out the first off, if you can follow along with that, and if you have the singing skills to follow along with him with that, it's fun to sing, even if it doesn't say a lot. And that's okay.
Right.
Then the second verse, he says, "I'll only do it for a worthy cause, virginity or menopause. You'll have an instant heart attack if I jack you off. If you really, really want to be a star, we got to do it in your mama's car. Naked in a Cadillac, I'll jack you off. If we can't find no place to go, girl, I'll take you to a movie show. We can sit in the back, and I'll jack you off." So he's up in the ante.
He liked that one. He did that one twice, but it is a good one.
Yeah, go to a movie. It's dark. You can sit in the back, as you mentioned, and I'm sure he's not the first person to ever fool around the back of a movie theater.
Right.
Mama's car. So he wants to do it in his daddy's car in Dirty Mind.
Yeah.
In your daddy's car, it's you I really want to drive. But here he wants to jack his girl off in his mama's car. So equal opportunity for his parents. Lucky them. Prince just needs to get his own damn car.
They're never going to lend him their car again, I think.
No. Not after listening to Dirty Mind and Jack You Off.
Yeah.
Like, son, what have you been doing with my car? And it's just funny. And it's starting off, do it for a worthy cause. I'll only do it for a worthy cause. Virginity or menopause. To me, that's, I mean, the way I read that is like, he says I'll only do it for a worthy cause, but then when he says virginity or menopause, I don't know if he means like virginity to menopause, like, from young to old, I don't care.
Yeah, that's kind of how I
only do it to virgins or people that are, or women that are nearing menopause. I don't think that's right. So that's how I take it. I take it to mean basically run the gamut of all women from young to old. Instant heart attack if I jack you off. So he's talking up his skills. He really thinks that he can do it better than she can.
Yeah.
Which is pretty bold.
Right.
Without getting too into it, I think most people would probably say that they're likely the best at that.
Yeah.
Themselves.
Yeah. Maybe a different act might be more effective, but you know.
But he's very confident that he's going to be so good at it that she's going to have an instant heart attack, and the good kind of heart attack, right? Right, the deadly kind.
Yeah.
If you really want to be a star, we got to do it in your mama's car. Not sure what that means as far as being a star, being a star in his own little private pornographic jack-off film, maybe, but. Naked in a Cadillac, I'll jack you off. So his mama's got a Cadillac. And then go back to the movie show. So it's, pretty much similar to the first verse in terms of like just citing a bunch of different locations and scenarios to jack this girl off. Mm-hmm. Fun stuff so far though, right?
Yeah. I think this had to have been a blast to write. Like it just seems like, he was having a lot of fun just like coming up with these scenarios, making them all rhyme, making them all end with "I'll jack you off." Like this, if nothing else, I think he had a lot of fun writing this song.
Yeah, whether he wrote it by himself as probably per normal, or if he had like a sketch or something, and then he was like bouncing some lyrical ideas off the bandmates.
Right.
Hey, what do you think about this one, guys? Like, oh yeah, that's good. Or no, go take it to the next level. Do it in your mom's car.
Right.
Virginity or menopause. So then he repeats the chorus, I'll jack you off, jack you off. And so then a little more synthesizer line after that. And then he's got this bridge. This is where like the kind of like the rockabilly guitar kicks in, right? During the bridge, where he starts singing, all right, say, put some funk on here. I'll jack you off. If you ain't chicken, baby, come here. If you're good, I'll even let you steer. And as a matter of fact, you can jack me off. Dun, dun, dun. So he's got that rockabilly guitar there when they're just kind of hooting and hollering, and then he says those lines, and they're kind of like, thinking back to the song, he's just kind of yelling them out.
Right.
Line by line. They're not really sung in a verse style, but then he kind of brings it all back. And for dramatic effect, you've got the as a matter of fact, and then the music stops. Mm-hmm. You can jack me off. And then you got instead of like the the punchline drum, ding ding, you got the ding.
Yeah, that little like piano jazz thing. Yeah.
Really wants to emphasize that twist at the end.
Right. Yeah. And it's I just love how he presents it as such a treat. Like,
right? Like, turnabout's fair play, man. It's my turn. I mean, we've done it, all these locations,
exactly.
all these places. Yeah. Matter of fact. So they're in a car, I guess, because he's like, unless, let you steer is also just euphemism for steering him.
Right.
Yeah, so that's jack you off, and then he sings the chorus again. How does the song end again? I'm trying to think.
I think it's a big full band splash ending. Everybody like goes in at the end, like he hits a high note, it's a little bit almost like Let's Go Crazy, but like way sillier.
Yeah, it's now that I've got it in my head, it's definitely an epic ending. He does that long scream, and you've got all the bandmates playing in the back, and then it just boom ends.
Yeah,
like, it is very Let's Go Crazy, like in terms of like build up, build up, build up, build up, build up, end.
Right.
And
like if Let's Go Crazy was just about masturbating somebody, that's what this song was.
Yeah, right. Instead of being about some really oblique religious references.
Right. That's growth, that's what 3 years of songwriting will
Yeah. Yeah, the shock, there was no room for that kind of, well, I mean, there was Darling Nikki. I was going to say there's no room for shock value on an album, such a big important album as Purple Rain, but yeah, there's kind of is with Darling Nikki, so I take that back. So yeah, we have to talk a little bit about, before we end this one, just the use of the phrase "jack you off."
Yeah.
To talk about female masturbation, because it's not really commonly used for that.
Yeah, I think we touched on this a little bit when we talked about head, because it's like I do think you hear head more for male oral sex, but it's not like totally outside of I've heard people say it for women too. Like it's maybe not quite as common, but you do hear it. Yep. I've never heard anyone talk about, other than Prince, I've never heard anyone talk about jacking a woman off. And he is very clear, with his pronouns, and he uses girl and stuff like that. But I remember reading, I think this is soon after Brown Mark joined the band, and he was kind of like, Prince, where I come from, we don't say that we don't talk about jacking women off. Like, I don't know if this is going to go over that well. And he obviously didn't listen to Brown Mark, but I do think that this was one of those songs that, for at a time when Prince's sexuality was seen as ambiguous, this song definitely added to that ambiguity.
Right, and so intentional or not, it certainly did. And so one may say that Prince was being shrewd by doing this, by calling a song "Jack You Off" if he's already intentionally ambiguous about his sexuality. I mean, he mentions it in the song "Controversy," "Am I straight or gay?" Somebody has to ask if he's gay on Uptown,
right,
the previous album. So there's some sexual ambiguity going on here that is of Prince's doing. I mean, it's not like he's totally innocent in this. And so to name a song "Jack You Off," intentional or not, it certainly did add to it, like you said. And if he was being shrewd and he wanted to make it slightly ambiguous, because, you have to kind of listen pretty hard to hear the girls in there, the pronouns, as you mentioned. It's not like it's girl, I'll jack you off. I mean,
right.
That's not the chorus.
Right.
You have to hear it in a couple of lines, but if you're not really paying attention that closely, it's not super clear that he's talking about a woman in the song. And if you're playing it live and you have to wait a while to get to that female pronoun. And what is it? The Rolling Stones concert, I think, when he was opening for them, this song was kind of like a big set off. Like,
yeah,
they did not appreciate this little guy wearing what he was wearing, singing a song called "Jack You Off."
Yeah, you can hear there's recordings of, I think, the second show floating around, and you can hear the audience's response to this song, and it is not positive.
No. Nope, it is not. And so, like, if he did it on purpose, okay, great. And if he didn't, okay, great. I mean,
right.
Whether he did or didn't, the song is what it is. And I think if he was either really shrewd or really naive. So
right.
Either way. And then also one of the other interesting tidbit is that I did look. Sometimes I look to see who covers these songs, if anybody ever covers a Prince song. And there was a gay punk rock band called Pansy Division. And
Yeah,
it's still around.
yeah.
And I found out I've never heard their version, and I had never heard of them prior to me looking this up. But they covered it, so you can definitely take the song pretty much how it's written and turn it into a gay anthem.
Right.
It works either way. Just if you want to switch the pronouns or just remove them entirely, the two times they come up, then it's absolutely works for that, for a band that is singing about gay attraction and male on male sex. So it absolutely works for that. And
Yeah.
they took it and then ran with it.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, the fluidity of the lyrics it can be repurposed for anybody. I'd be interested to see like a lesbian group do it. Just
Yeah.
take ownership of the jacking you off in terms of female masturbation. I don't think that's happened yet, at least not a recorded version or documented version that I was able to find. But
Yeah, she's not a lesbian, but Robin, the Swedish like sort of dance electro pop singer, she did a version, just a random cover that I think is I don't think it's on any of her albums or anything. I think it's just sort of like online. Which is interesting. Yeah.
Did you happen to notice, did she change pronouns or did she leave a girl?
I would have to listen to it again. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I would I would be curious to confirm though.
Probably left him alone. I mean,
I think nowadays that's sort of that's what you do nowadays.
Yeah.
You just
leave it
sing
the way
the song the way it was written. Yeah.
Exactly. Nobody's going to have that kind of reaction anymore about, oh my God, what
Right.
is she trying to say with this song? This Prince song from 1981 that she's obviously right. So, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, that's the end of the album. It's a big epic finale, as we mentioned, even though the song, controversy is weird that way, political sex.
Right.
Sex. It just bounces all over the place. So it makes sense that after, like especially with side B with 5 songs, you got sex or romance, private joy, political, Ronnie Talk to Russia, going back to sex and having fun. Let's work. And now let's talk about something serious again, the Anti-Christian. To finish it off on Jack You Off, just matches like the pattern that had evolved from the track listing, and the way it ends, it works. It works. It's a fun song. It's memorable and it's easy to sing along to. Appropriately or not, depends. But depends on your age, depends on your maturity level.
Yeah.
But I like the song. It's good. It's a good song. It's fun.
Yeah, and I think as a closing track, even though I wouldn't put it in that upper echelon of closing tracks that we were talking about. He had 3 really strong ones in a row, but I think it for the purpose of finishing an album that sometimes can feel a little bit dour, because of this, like his more political songwriting and, and I think also just Prince at this period was really into creating a mystique and myth building. And you look at the guy on the cover of Controversy, he doesn't look like a very fun guy, and so I think it was
very serious.
Yeah, I think it was a nice touch to end this album on this really kind of like joyous and frivolous note. I think that was I think this was the way to go out, just by way of contrast with some of the more serious and kind of like messianic and slightly self-important moments on this album.
Yep, it's the final track from that raunchy rocker from Minnesota, Prince. So that brings us to the end of this episode. So thanks, Zach, for joining me again. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you very much, and thanks for listening, everyone. You've been listening to the Press Rewind, a Prince Lyrics podcast. I've been your host, Jason Brenninger. If you'd like to get a hold of me on social media, I can be found at PressRewind75 on Twitter, where you can get a hold of me on Instagram or Facebook using the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast name. Any of those sites, I'd love to hear from you, or just any comments you'd like to make. towards the podcast, or you can also find me on the pressrewind.net blog that I operate under. Thanks to Zach Hoskins for joining me, and until next time, goodbye.